Shabbat Shalom, my friends, and welcome back to our Torah conversations. Conversations that can never actually be completed week after week, year after year, forever. Our Sedra this week is Chukat, Numbers 19, verse 1 and following. According to rabbinic sources, and I want you to remember all this data, the Torah has 304,805 letters, 79,976 words, approximately 5,888 verses, and of course, 5 books. The Torah tells the story of the Israelite people from the instant that the cosmos was created until the moment of Moses' death. The book of Genesis handles the early part from creation to the time of the death of Joseph. So, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy take the narrative from the time of the enslavement of the Israelites and the birth of Moses until the Israelites stand at the very border of the Promised Land. Exodus covers much of the first 2 years of the desert experience. The book of Leviticus has little to offer in terms of advancing the narrative. It deals with the laws of the Levites, a little bit of holiness, and so forth. And the book of Deuteronomy focuses primarily on what is understood to be the last sermon of Moses before he dies. So that leaves the book of Numbers as the only place in which we would expect to find the stories of 38 of the 40 years of desert wandering. But that story is found almost nowhere in our text. A few accounts of battles are recounted, but they're just tiny windows into a story. There are some instances of the people's dissatisfaction with Moses, and of course, various rebellions against God. And tiny snippets that, for example, tell about the deaths of Miriam and of Aaron. But there are 79,976 words in the Torah, and they reveal almost nothing to us about most of the wilderness wandering. Oh, we do know that the former slaves and all who had joined with them evolved over that period of time from a gathering of tribes into a nation, Yisrael. And we know about the 12 spies, and we know that the Israelites had themselves organized into military units. We know that everyone, 2 exceptions, above the age of 20 who exited from Egypt died before the people entered the Promised Land, and a new generation rose up in their place. We know that guaranteeing food and water was always a big issue, despite the very practical appearance of manna 6 days every single week. And we know that the ethical and the moral laws continued to evolve and to develop based upon the echoes of God's voice as heard from Mount Sinai. And next week, yes, we'll meet a talking donkey. But that's about it. In our Sedra, Chukat, Moses is already a very old man, and his age is showing. He is increasingly alone. His sister Miriam dies in our Sedra. His brother Aaron dies. But Moses has learned a bitter lesson, a lesson which in fact is addressed to us. You can't rely upon miracles to convince the people to follow that truth, that moral vision, which are understood to be the will of the God of Sinai. Now, miracles do make for great entertainment. They're a great show for the masses. And the story of miracles, of course, will continue to be told in awestruck tones from generation to generation. But those miracles also create an endless, insatiable hunger among the people. Give us more. Give us more. Despite the miracles, The people were not fundamentally transformed as the sea split, or as Mount Sinai quaked, or as Moses brought forth water from a rock, or as the manna arrived, or as God descended in a cloud over the tabernacle, indicating that the divine was ready to have communications with Moses. 40 years of miracles, and it was just never enough. Moses viewed our ancestors, his people, as a stubborn and stiff-necked people, ungrateful, rebellious, with eyes that refuse to see and with minds that refuse to absorb. Now in the 40th year, guess what? The people are clamoring for water. Moses' resilience is just about gone. God tells him, speak to the rock, it'll bring forth another miracle, water will appear. But Moses hastens to the tabernacle, finds his staff that was stored there, and cries out, Shimu na hamurim, listen now, you rebels. You want water? You expect me to once again bring forth water from a rock? Disregarding God's command, Moses smashes his staff down upon the rock, and water gushes forth. The people drink, but are they satisfied? They're not satisfied. They're not transformed, because they never are. Miracles don't do that. And Moses, in return, receives a death sentence from God. Of course, Moses went running to go look for his staff. When he first met God at the burning bush, that same staff was in his hand. And when he was called upon to demonstrate the power of God before Pharaoh, he did so with that staff. When he heralded the arrival of each of the plagues, the staff was there in his hand. When the sea was split, Moses had that same staff in his hand. When the Israelites were in battle, Moses lifted up the staff, and the people drew courage and strength and defeated their enemies. Aviva Zornberg likens that staff to the conductor's baton. A heavily layered piece of wood or carbon fiber, the baton symbolizes authority and confidence. There's no magic power inherent in the baton. It's not a magic wand, but it draws the musician's attention in a way that an empty hand could not. The baton elicits the best that the musicians have to offer. The baton is familiar to the players, and it becomes the key to all that follows. And the baton is also familiar to the conductor. It conveys confidence in the outcome as a symphony unfolds. But there comes a time when the orchestra exits the stage. Waving the baton will now have no impact whatsoever. Some members of the audience, those whom the music has deeply touched, will carry the music with them. It will suffuse their lives. It will enrich their souls, even without a conductor, even without a baton, even without a concert hall. And those others leaving that concert hall, those others will go elsewhere for another temporary infusion of entertainment. My friends, in our Sedra, the music ends. We enter a post-miracle world in which nothing awaits the power of God, and all that is possible rests in our own hands. In our Sedra, we realize that Moses' usefulness is just about at an end. That concert is over. The baton will call forth no more responses. If the people want water, they will have to go out and find that water. If they want a world where justice replaces cruelty, they will have to fight for such a world. If the people want a natural environment that will no longer be degraded, then they'll have to go out and fight for that environment, if the people want to love their neighbors and to achieve holiness in their actions, then they're going to have to fight for that love and fight for that holiness. Moses' staff will have been returned to its place of storage. Through our personal study, through our memories, through our deeds, through the sacred communities that we sustain, we alone can draw joy into this troubled world. Miracles are gone. We have no staff. Those of us not conductors have no batons. But the human heart and the human hand and the human mind and the human will can form what Zornberg calls new chains of meaning, new sources of sweetness and of beauty, new understandings of revelation. Maybe that will be enough. We can only try. That's it for today. Have a wonderful Shabbat. If you hit share, others will discover us, and that's a good thing. Shabbat Shalom.